tired of people asking about you know who?
No.
21. So you're not tired of hearing about 21?
I'm ready to disappear with my baby and my man and just...
Baby.
Doing no more crying. I ain't doing no more crying. I'm a gangster. I'm a mother first, and I'm a gangster right out.
Do you guys remember when Latto had Gorgeous Doll jumped at the club and she had a miscarriage? Do you guys remember that? Because I feel like that went by too quickly. I don't know if it's because Gorgeous Doll is not like well known as Latto, so everyone just kind of forgot about it, but she got that woman jumped and had her have a miscarriage. Now, could you imagine if Gorgeous Doll and Latto were beefing now and Gorgeous Doll had Latto beat up and had her have a miscarriage? Do you guys understand how Gorgeous Doll would be torn?
And it went viral, and then I started getting calls from your team saying that you allegedly wanted to pay me to take it off of Hollywood Unlocked. Although I think we posted it first, everybody started posting it, and then it became a thing where I think then she got, from what I understand, was unhappy with us not taking it down. And so to go and then ask Chloe if she was allegedly in a sexual relationship with Quavo, asking the T, how can you do a show and be legitimate as a show person when you don't want your own tea?
It's come to my attention that this situation that I had with Latto in 2024 is being re-brought up by bloggers and other content creators to try to get a little traction, I guess. And here's all I have to say, right? I'm not bringing this situation back up. I've healed through it. And if you have been somebody who's followed me over the years, you know that that situation was very detrimental to my mental health, okay? That situation caused a domino effect of me just lashing out, okay? And for me to see people tagging me in this situation, wanting a response, I want you guys to know this, right? That was a very hard situation for me. It's not something that I even talk about anymore because I've healed through it. So when you see somebody making a video towards that, I would like for you to literally make it known that, first of all, this is 2 years old. And how would you feel if you went through such a traumatic situation and then you get online and people are now re-bringing it up 2 years later? Okay, I have healed through that situation. I've also taken accountability for where I was.
The internet thought it had already seen every twist in Latto's love life, but nobody was ready for this plot twist. A secret relationship, a pregnancy reveal that raised more questions than congratulations, whispers of a married man, and now, old accusations bubbling back to the surface that are dark enough to stop the timeline cold. And just when it seemed like things couldn't get any messier, Sexyy Red allegedly stepped in behind the scenes, stirring the pot in a way that has fans questioning everything. Because this isn't just celebrity gossip anymore. It's a full-blown scandal with receipts, rumors, and a past that refuses to stay buried. The internet thought it had finally figured out Latto, confident, unbothered, and always 10 steps ahead, but everything flipped overnight when she reappeared with a pregnancy that raised more questions than congratulations. Because behind a soft reveal and carefully cropped photos, fans immediately started connecting dots to one explosive rumor. The father might be 21 Savage, a man many believe is already married. And just when people were still trying to process that contradiction, whispers of something even darker started resurfacing online. Old allegations, messy history, and a situation involving Gorgeous Doll that some say never got the attention it deserved. But wait, because it doesn't stop there. Behind the scenes, there are claims that Sexyy Red may have been stirring the pot long before the public caught on, turning what should have been a simple celebrity pregnancy into a full-blown, multi-layered scandal that has everyone picking sides. What makes this whole situation hit even harder is how drastically it clashes with the image Latto spent years building. This is the same woman who proudly leaned into being independent, unbothered, and in control of her narrative. The one who gave off "I don't need a man" energy and kept her personal life locked down tighter than a vault. She was vocal about moving smart, staying private, and not letting the industry play her. And now, the same Latto who made a brand out of independence is suddenly at the center of a secretive pregnancy, tied to one of the most controversial relationship rumors in hip-hop right now. The irony is loud. The shift is undeniable. And for a lot of fans, it feels like watching two completely different versions of the same person collide in real time. The public persona versus the reality that's now unfolding whether she wants it to or not. But this didn't just come out of nowhere. If you rewind the timeline, the clues have been sitting in plain sight for years. Rumors about Latto and 21 Savage have been circulating since as far back as 2020, and every single time they came up, they were shut down just as quickly. Deny, deflect, move on. That was the pattern. Until little moments started slipping through the cracks. There was that Puerto Rico trip for her birthday that had fans raising eyebrows. Then the accidental Instagram story post where 21 uploaded a barefaced photo of Latto with a caption that felt way too personal to be just friends energy, only for it to be deleted almost immediately. But by then, it was already too late. The internet had screenshots, and once people start connecting dots, they don't stop. And then came the detail that really sent things into overdrive: a tattoo. A stylist posts a photo, and suddenly fans spot what looks like 21 Savage's real name inked behind Latto's ear. At that point, it stopped being speculation and started feeling like a cover-up that wasn't holding up anymore. Every denial just made things look more suspicious, like they were trying to hide something that was always one slip away from being exposed. So when Latto finally stepped forward with her pregnancy announcement, people weren't just surprised. They were investigative. The photos were soft, intentional, and carefully curated, but also strategic. No face reveal for the father, just a man's arms wrapped around her, tattoos visible enough for fans to zoom in and compare. And that's exactly what they did. Within minutes, social media was flooded with side-by-sides, breakdowns, and I told you so reactions. What made it even more wild is that this wasn't the first time people had suspected she was pregnant. Months earlier, after a performance overseas, fans were already speculating, and she brushed it off, saying it was just bloating. Now, looking back, that moment hits completely differently. It feeds into the one thing the internet loves to believe, that they always know first. And in this case, they might have been right all along. But just as the conversation started settling into messy relationship drama, things took a sharp, uncomfortable turn. Because out of nowhere, people began bringing up Gorgeous Doll again. And not in a casual way, but tied to serious allegations that had once circulated and then seemingly disappeared. The claims? That there was an incident years ago involving violence while Gorgeous Doll was pregnant. An accusation so heavy that even now, it's being discussed carefully, with no confirmed proof, but enough lingering questions to make people uneasy. What makes this even more intense is Gorgeous Doll's own response when the topic resurfaced. Instead of fueling the drama, she spoke about healing, about how damaging that period of her life was, and how she's moved forward. And that shift in tone, from gossip to something more emotional and real, adds a weight to the situation that's hard to ignore. It's no longer just about who's dating who. It's about past actions, accountability, and whether everything we're seeing now is connected to something deeper that never fully came to light. And then there's the layer that might be the most explosive of all. The possibility that this entire situation involved a man who was never fully available to begin with. Because while fans were busy connecting Latto to 21 Savage, another name quietly stayed in the background. His alleged wife, often referred to as Kiana. According to long-running rumors, their relationship may have originally been tied to legal status, with whispers of a marriage connected to immigration circumstances. Nothing has been publicly confirmed in detail, but that hasn't stopped people close to the situation and various online outlets from suggesting that 21's personal life is far more complicated than it appears. And if even part of that is true, it shifts the narrative completely. This isn't just about a secret relationship anymore. It becomes a story about overlapping lives, hidden truths, and decisions that could impact far more than just reputations. Suddenly, every denial, every hidden detail, every carefully avoided question starts to feel less like coincidence, and more like something that was always meant to stay behind the scenes until now. Just when it seemed like this situation couldn't get any more layered, enter Sexyy Red. Because this isn't someone who randomly popped into the story. This is someone who already had history with Latto, and not the friendly kind. If you rewind a bit, their tension had been quietly building long before this pregnancy drama ever surfaced. It started with subtle shade and quickly turned into full-blown internet side-eyes when fans accused Latto of copying Sexyy Red style, specifically her signature True Religion looks. What might have seemed like a small fashion overlap turned into a bigger conversation about originality, influence, and who was really setting trends versus who was following them. Latto clapped back, pulling receipts from years prior to prove she'd been rocking the aesthetic before it was mainstream for Sexyy, while Sexyy responded in her own way, doubling down without directly naming names. It was messy, it was petty, and most importantly, it never really got resolved. So when you place that unresolved tension next to everything happening now, it completely changes how people interpret what came next. Because here's where things take a turn nobody expected. After all that subtle beef, all the back and forth energy, all the comparisons and accusations, Sexyy Red publicly congratulated Latto on her pregnancy. And not in a shady way either. On the surface, it looked supportive, almost sisterly. That alone had people confused. Was this growth? Maturity? Or just good PR? Because given their history, it didn't quite add up. And in situations like this, when something feels off, the internet doesn't just accept it. They start digging. And the deeper they dug, the messier it allegedly got. Behind the scenes, rumors began circulating that the public support didn't match the private conversations. According to online chatter and so-called insider whispers, Sexyy Red may have already been talking about Latto's pregnancy before it was ever confirmed, telling people not just that she was expecting, but allegedly who the father was and why the situation was embarrassing. Now none of this has been officially confirmed, but the narrative spread fast. That while she was posting congratulations in public, she might have been spilling tea in private. And that flips the entire energy of her message. Suddenly, what looked like support starts to feel strategic. Calculated even, like a play nice in public, say what you really feel in private kind of situation. And if that's even partially true, it would explain why Latto chose silence instead of acknowledgement. Because let's be real, under normal circumstances, a congratulatory message from a fellow artist, especially one with a complicated past, would at least get a polite response. But this time, nothing. No repost, no thank you, no interaction. And silence, in moments like this, speaks volumes. It suggests awareness, distance, maybe even a decision to not escalate things publicly while something else is unfolding behind the curtain. And that unanswered tension, that's what keeps people watching, waiting for someone to slip, respond, or confirm what's really going on. Meanwhile, the court of public opinion has been anything but quiet. Social media has turned into a battlefield of hot takes, with some people expressing genuine shock and disappointment, especially from fans who bought into Latto's previous image. Others are more critical, questioning her decisions and pointing out the complications of knowingly getting involved in such a messy situation. But then there's another side, people who are defending her, saying that relationships are complicated, that the full story isn't public, and that she shouldn't be judged so harshly based on speculation alone. It's become less about just gossip and more about perspective. Is this a case of poor choices catching up in real time? Or is this a woman navigating a complicated situation that the public only partially understands? And that's where things get really interesting, because there's no clean answer. Every angle of this story opens up another question, another possibility, another version of events that could be true depending on who you believe. Was this karma finally circling back after years of secrecy and denial? Or is it just coincidence that everything is unraveling at once? And when it comes to Sexyy Red, did she actually cross a line by allegedly speaking on something that wasn't hers to tell? Or did she just say out loud what everyone else was already thinking but too afraid to admit? Either way, one thing is clear. This situation is far from over, and the more people dig, the more complicated it becomes. So now the real question is, whose side are you on?